Hey everyone, I'm Vicky Young, 31 years old, and I've always been the one to claw my way through life. Growing up in Tucson, Arizona, I learned early that nothing comes free, especially not in my family. My parents always had a favorite, and it wasn't me. I poured everything into my marketing job, saved every penny, and bought a small house in the suburbs. It's not fancy, but it's mine, my pride, my proof I made it. So when we gathered for a family dinner at a pizza joint that weekend, I thought it'd be the usual small talk, forced smiles. But then my parents dropped a bomb. Your brother could really use your house. He needs more space for his family. They said like it was nothing. Everyone, my parents' relatives, started clapping as if I'd just hand over my life's work. My stomach twisted. I laughed, not a polite chuckle, but a sharp one that cut through the noise. I stood up, heart pounding, and said something that made the whole table freeze. What I said changed everything, and not in the way they expected. If you've ever been blindsided by family, hit that subscribe button and stick around to hear how I turn the tables. When Tyler started his family, I thought pitching in was just what sisters do. My older brother, Tyler Young, always had a knack for landing in messes, and I was the one cleaning them up. He's a freelance graphic designer, talented but inconsistent gigs came and went, leaving his bank account a roller coaster. His wife, Vanessa Young, didn't help. She works part-time at a retail store, but her spending habits. Let's just say she treats every paycheck like it's Black Friday. They have two kids, Aiden Young and Sophia Young, who are 6 and 4, cute, but caught in their parents' chaos. It started small a few years back. Tyler called one night, voice tight, saying their electricity was about to get cut off. I wired them $200 thinking it was a one-time fix. Then came the water bill, then another. Before I knew it, I was covering their utilities every few months. Vanessa would text Vicky, "We're in a bind. Can you help?" I'd sigh, transfer the money, and tell myself it was for Aiden and Sophia. Family right. Then there was the car. Their old sedan broke down constantly, flat tires, dead battery, you name it. Tyler would shrug, say he'd get to it, but never did. So I paid for repairs, $500 here, $300 there. I figured a working car was essential for the kids. My parents, Robert Young and Margaret Young, knew I was helping but never said much. Mom would nod like it was my job to keep Tyler afloat. Dad just changed the subject. The bills piled up, and so did my frustration. Last year, I noticed the amounts creeping higher. $80 for electricity became $120. A quick fix for the car turned into a full transmission overhaul, costing me $1,200. I started checking my bank statements more closely, wondering where my money was really going. Tyler never offered details, just vague thanks. Vanessa's texts got shorter, almost expectant, like I owed them. I'd lie awake calculating what I'd spent, thousands over the years. My savings for a new laptop, maybe a vacation, were shrinking. Paige Grant, my best friend and a sharp accountant, picked up on my stress. Over coffee, she'd ask, "Vicky, you're still covering their bills?" I'd nod, feeling a knot in my chest. She'd frown, her eyes narrowing, but didn't push yet. I kept telling myself I was doing the right thing. Tyler's my brother, and those kids deserve a stable home. But the weight of it was crushing me. Every time I sent money, I felt a piece of my own life slip away. I started wondering if family meant I had to sacrifice everything. I didn't know it then, but those doubts were building to something bigger, something that would explode at that family dinner. It was a typical Saturday night at a pizza place in Tucson, but I didn't expect a family dinner to turn into a showdown. The smell of pepperoni and chatter filled the air as I sat across from my brother Tyler, his wife Vanessa, and their kids Aiden and Sophia. My dad and mom were at the head of the table, surrounded by aunts, uncles, and cousins, all caught up in the usual family banter. I was picking at my slice, half listening to Tyler ramble about his latest freelance gig, when he suddenly stood up, cleared his throat, and got everyone's attention. "Vicky's got that nice house in the suburbs," Tyler said, his voice loud enough to hush the table. "It's just her, living alone. Aiden and Sophia need more space a yard to play in a real home. I think Vicky should let us move in. It's only fair. Right? He grinned like he'd just pitched the deal of the century. My jaw tightened. Before I could process it, Dad chimed in. Tyler's got a point. Family helps family. Mom nodded, her eyes fixed on me, expectant. Then the clapping started, my aunts, uncles, even a cousin or two, all cheering like this was some grand plan. Aiden and Sophia just sat there oblivious, munching on crust. I felt my face burn. My house, the one I'd scraped and saved for the one I'd built my life around, was being treated like a handout. Tyler stood there smug while Vanessa leaned in, whispering something to him, her earrings glinting. I couldn't believe it. After everything I'd done, paying their bills, fixing their car, they thought they could just take my home. My heart pounded, a mix of anger and disbelief. I didn't plan what happened next. It just came out. I laughed. Not a quiet chuckle, but a sharp, cutting laugh that stopped the clapping dead. Every eye turned to me. I pushed my chair back, stood up and let it rip. You think I should give up my house? I said, my voice steady but loud. For years I've paid Tyler and Vanessa's electricity, their water, even their car repairs, thousands of dollars straight from my pocket. And now you want my home too? The table went silent. Tyler's grin vanished. Vanessa's face froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Dad shifted in his seat, avoiding my gaze. Mom's lips parted, but no words came out. My cousin looked down, embarrassed, while an aunt muttered something under her breath. I kept going, my voice rising. I worked my tail off for that house. Every late night, every skipped vacation, it's mine. And you all think I should just hand it over because Tyler needs it. I stared straight at Tyler, who wouldn't meet my eyes. Vanessa tried to speak, stammering about the kids, but I cut her off. Don't. You've taken enough. The silence was deafening. Aiden tugged at Vanessa's sleeve, confused, while Sophia played with her napkin, unaware. My relatives exchanged awkward glances, some shifting uncomfortably, others pretending to check their phones. I sat back down, my hands shaking but my head clear. I'd never spoken up like that before, never laid it all bare. Tyler tried to laugh it off, mumbling something about just an idea, but the damage was done. The rest of the dinner dragged on, tense and quiet. Nobody brought up the house again. Mom tried to change the subject, asking about dessert, but the mood was shot. I ate my pizza, staring at my plate, feeling their eyes on me. For the first time, I didn't care what they thought. I'd said my piece, and there was no going back. A few days after that dinner, my friend Paige dropped a truth bomb I couldn't ignore. We were grabbing coffee at a little shop in Tucson, the kind of place where baristas know your order by heart. Paige, sharp as ever in her no-nonsense accountant way, leaned across the table, her eyes narrowing. Vicky, I saw something weird on Tyler's social media, she said, her voice low but urgent. He's been posting about a new 4K TV, big one, top of the line. You know how much those cost, right? Where's he getting that kind of money? I froze my latte halfway to my lips. My stomach churned. The money I'd been sending for their bills, their car repairs, was it funding a TV? I tried to brush it off, saying maybe Tyler landed a big freelance job. But Paige wasn't buying it. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through his posts, and showed me a photo of him grinning in front of a sleek, massive screen, Vanessa posing beside him. The caption read, "Living the dream." My chest tightened. I'd been working overtime, cutting corners on my own budget just to keep their lights on. And they were splurging on a TV that cost more than my monthly mortgage. Paige raised an eyebrow, sensing my shock. There's more, she said, swiping to another post, a new gaming console, fancy headphones, even a designer purse Vanessa was flaunting. Each photo felt like a slap in the face. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, diving into my bank statements. My hands shook as I scrolled through years of transactions. There it was, clear as day, hundreds of dollars every few months for Tyler's electricity and water, car repair charges, $500 here, $1,200 there. But then I noticed something else. I'd been paying for their streaming services Netflix, Hulu, the works linked to my credit card for over a year. I never authorized that. And their phone bills tacked onto my account month after month without a word. I added it up, thousands of dollars siphoned off for their lifestyle, not their necessities. My head spun. I felt like a fool betrayed by the people I'd sacrificed for. I called Paige, my voice trembling with rage. "You were right," I said. "They've been using me." She didn't say I told you, so just listened as I vented. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I didn't hesitate. By morning, I was on the phone with the utility companies canceling every payment tied to Tyler's name. I logged into my streaming accounts, changed the passwords, and cut them off. The phone bills I called the provider removed their lines from my plan. For the first time, I saw the truth: my brother and his wife weren't struggling. They were playing me. Every dollar I sent thinking it was for Aiden and Sophia went to their shiny toys. The betrayal stung deeper than I expected. I kept picturing Tyler's smug grin at the dinner, Vanessa's casual whispers like they deserved my money. I'd given up my own dreams, a photography course, a trip I'd always wanted to prop them up. And for what a 4K TV they didn't need, I paced my living room, torn between anger and hurt. Paige texted checking in, and I told her I was done. "Good," she replied. "You don't owe them anything." She was right. I'd spent years feeling guilty, like I wasn't doing enough for family. But this wasn't family. This was a scam. Cutting them off felt like ripping off a bandage. It hurt, but it was freeing. I sat on my couch staring at the bank app on my phone, the balances finally mine again. I knew Tyler and Vanessa wouldn't take this quietly. They'd relied on me for too long, and I'd just pulled the plug. But I was ready for whatever came next. I wasn't the same Vicky who'd laughed nervously at that dinner. I was done being their ATM. The calls started the next morning, and then I saw what they were saying about me online. My phone buzzed relentlessly as I sat at my desk trying to focus on work. First, it was Mom. "Vicky, how could you do this to your brother?" She snapped, her voice sharp with disappointment. "Canceling their support. Aiden and Sophia need a stable home, and you're being heartless." I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. I tried to explain that I'd been funding their lifestyle, not their necessities, but she cut me off. "Family sacrifices. Vicky, you've got that house all to yourself. Think about the kids." Her words hit like a punch, but I held my ground, saying I was done bailing them out. She hung up, muttering about my selfishness. Then Tyler called, his tone desperate, almost pleading. "Vicky, we're struggling," he said. "The kids can't live like this. You've always helped us. Just one more time, please." I could hear Vanessa in the background coaching him, her voice low and urgent. It was the same old guilt trip, using Aiden and Sophia as pawns. I told him no, my voice firm but shaking. "You've had enough of my money," I said. He tried to argue, bringing up how I'd embarrassed them at the dinner, but I ended the call. My heart raced, but I felt a strange clarity. I wasn't falling for it anymore. Vanessa was next, texting me a novel-length message. "The kids are suffering because of you," she wrote. "How can you sleep at night, knowing Aiden and Sophia are in a dark apartment? You're their aunt." I stared at the words, my stomach twisting. I wanted to believe they were struggling, but after seeing their new TV and designer purse, I knew better. I didn't respond. I'd spent years letting their sob stories pull me back in, but this time, I saw through the act. Then came the social media storm. I was scrolling through Facebook when I saw it, a post from Mom, public for all our relatives and friends to see. "Some people forget what family means," it read. "Turning your back on your own brother and his kids. Disgraceful." My name wasn't mentioned, but everyone knew it was me. Dad shared the post, adding, "Raised a daughter who only cares about herself." Tyler chimed in with a comment. "Guess some people think a house is more important than their nephews and nieces." Vanessa's post was worse. A photo of Aiden and Sophia looking sad, captioned, "When family lets you down." My blood boiled. They were painting me as the villain, the ungrateful daughter who'd abandoned her family. Friends from high school, distant cousins, even neighbors were liking and commenting, piling on with how could she and poor kids. I wanted to fire back, to post my side, how I'd paid their bills for years, how they'd spent my money on luxuries. But I stopped myself. Engaging would only fuel their drama, and I was done playing their game. Instead, I reported their posts for harassment and made my profile private. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, but I turned it off, needing a moment to breathe. I sat on my porch staring at the Tucson sunset, feeling the weight of their words. For a moment, I questioned myself, had I been too harsh, but then I remembered the truth: they'd used me, lied to me, and now they were dragging my name through the mud because I'd said no. Talking to a coworker later, I vented about the posts. She shook her head, saying, "Families do that when they lose control over you." She was right. Their attacks weren't about Aiden or Sophia. They were about punishing me for setting boundaries. I went back to my house, the one they'd tried to take, and felt a quiet relief. I wasn't the one carrying their burdens anymore. I'd spent years trapped by guilt, thinking I owed them my life. Now, I was free. Their words online couldn't change that. I knew they'd keep pushing, but I was ready to stand my ground no matter what they threw at me next. It didn't take long for reality to hit Tyler and Vanessa hard. About 2 months after I cut them off, Paige called me during my lunch break, her voice a mix of disbelief and pity. "Vicky, you won't believe this," she said. "Tyler and Vanessa got evicted from their apartment. They couldn't pay the rent." I sat back in my office chair, staring at the Tucson skyline through the window. A part of me felt a pang for Aiden and Sophia, caught in their parents' mess, but I wasn't surprised. My brother and his wife had relied on my money for years, spending it on luxuries while neglecting their bills. Now the consequences were crashing down. Paige filled me in on the details, pieced together from mutual friends and a few posts that slipped through the cracks of their private profiles. The landlord had given them multiple warnings, but without my payments for their utilities and car, they couldn't keep up. They'd packed their belongings, probably including that flashy 4K TV, and moved into a cramped motel room on the outskirts of Tucson. The place was one of those rundown spots with flickering neon signs and thin walls barely big enough for a family of 4. Aiden and Sophia were sharing a pull-out couch, their toys stuffed into plastic bins. I pictured them confused and cramped, and my heart ached. But I knew stepping in would only restart the cycle. My parents, Robert and Margaret, tried to help, but they were stretched thin themselves. Dad's pension and Mom's part-time job at a local library barely covered their own expenses. They'd offered Tyler and Vanessa a small loan, maybe a few $100s, but it wasn't enough to cover back rent or secure a new place. Mom called me once, her voice heavy with guilt, asking if I'd reconsider helping just for the kids. I listened, my jaw tight, and told her no. "They need to figure this out," I said. "I've done enough." She didn't argue, just sighed and hung up. Dad didn't even try to call. I think he knew I wouldn't budge. Paige kept me updated, her texts coming in sporadically over the weeks. She'd heard from a coworker who lived near the motel that Tyler was scrambling for freelance gigs, but his reputation for missing deadlines wasn't helping. Vanessa had picked up extra shifts at the retail store, but her paycheck couldn't stretch far enough. They'd sold some of their gadgets, the gaming console, maybe the headphones, but the money vanished quickly. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need to. Their life was unraveling, and it wasn't my job to stitch it back together. I spent those weeks focusing on my own life. I signed up for that photography course I'd put off for years, spending evenings learning to capture the desert sunsets I loved. I started saving again, my bank account slowly recovering from the years of draining it for Tyler's family. At night, I'd sit in my living room, the one they'd wanted to take, and feel a quiet pride. This house, my house, was mine because I'd worked for it. I wasn't the villain they'd painted me as on social media. I was just done carrying their weight. Sometimes I wondered if I should reach out, maybe check on Aiden and Sophia. But every time the thought crossed my mind, I remembered Vanessa's manipulative texts, Tyler's smug demands, and Mom's accusations. They'd built their lives on expecting handouts, and now they were learning what happened when the safety net disappeared. Paige agreed when we met for coffee one weekend. They thought you'd cave, she said, stirring her drink. But you didn't. That's on them. Her words settled something in me, a confirmation that I'd made the right call. I'd given them years of my life, my money, my energy, my dreams. Now they were facing the fallout, and I was finally free to live for myself. I didn't know what they'd do next, but for the first time, I didn't feel responsible for finding out. For the first time in years, my phone stayed quiet, and I felt what freedom was like. After months of dodging calls and texts, I made the final move. I blocked Mom, Dad, Tyler, and Vanessa. My finger hesitated over each contact, but as I pressed, block, a weight lifted. No more guilt trips, no more accusations. I'd spent my life tethered to their demands, but now I was cutting the rope. My house in Tucson, the one they'd tried to claim, became my sanctuary, a place where I could breathe live and just be me. I threw myself into the photography course I'd always wanted. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, I'd drive to the community center, camera in hand, learning to capture the golden hues of desert sunsets. The other students, a mix of hobbyists and dreamers, became a new kind of family, one that didn't expect anything from me, but shared laughter and tips on lighting. I'd come home, upload my photos, and pin my favorites on a board in my living room. Each image, from cacti silhouetted against the sky to a lone hawk soaring, reminded me I was building something for myself. My savings grew, no longer drained by Tyler's bills. I even started planning a trip to the Grand Canyon, something I'd postponed for years, to cover their expenses. Paige kept me updated on Tyler and Vanessa, though I didn't ask. They were still in that rundown motel, scraping by on odd jobs and whatever they could sell. Aiden and Sophia were enrolled in a new school, one with fewer resources, and Paige heard they were struggling to adjust. My heart twinged for them. They didn't choose their parents' mistakes, but I knew I couldn't save them without sinking myself. Tyler had taken a part-time job at a warehouse, but his inconsistent hours made it hard to keep up. Vanessa's retail shifts weren't enough either. Mom and Dad, stretched thin on their own budget, couldn't do more than send occasional groceries. Their lives were a stark contrast to the flashy posts they'd shared when my money was funding their toys. I didn't feel triumph, just a quiet resolve. Their struggles were the natural fallout of years of leaning on me instead of standing on their own. I'd given them thousands, electricity, car repairs, even their streaming accounts, thinking it was for family. But family doesn't mean carrying someone else's load forever. I learned that the hard way. The real lesson came down to one word: no. Saying it at that pizza dinner, saying it when I cut them off, saying it when they begged, that was my power. It wasn't about being heartless, it was about protecting my own worth. My family didn't define me. My house, my work, my photos, those did. Sometimes I'd sit on my porch watching the stars over Tucson and think about what I'd lost. Not just money, but years of trying to please people who never saw me as enough. I'd wonder if Mom or Dad ever regretted their words, or if Tyler and Vanessa realized what they'd thrown away. But those thoughts faded faster each day. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. Cutting contact wasn't revenge, it was survival. I had no regrets. My life was mine again, and I was finally living it. Looking back, I see how easy it is to get trapped by family expectations. You think you owe them because they're blood, but love shouldn't come with a price tag. My story isn't unique. Maybe you've felt that pressure too, that guilt to give more than you can. The biggest lesson I learned is that boundaries aren't selfish. They're strength. Saying no doesn't make you less, it makes you whole. Tyler and Vanessa are still out there, stuck in their choices, while I'm here, free to chase my own dreams. To everyone who's listened to my story, thank you. It means the world to share this and know you're out there, maybe nodding along or feeling that spark to stand up for yourself. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to draw a line with family? Drop a comment, share your story. let's talk about what it means to choose yourself.